Hey everyone, I'm excited to show you guys the brand new, just finished working prototype of the payment features that have been added to the web quote system. For demonstration purposes, this is hosted on our developer staging server for the moment, but it's ready to be deployed on our PPM server as soon as you guys give me the okay. So this video is just going to give you guys a little overview of the new features. And just a refresher from what was designed during the mock-up phase, with this new version of the system, clients will now be able to pay their deposit immediately when they accept their quote, if we require a deposit, of course. And they'll also have the option to postpone deposit payment if they just want us to get started with the project, but they need a little time with the payment. And then they'll also be able to pay the remaining balance at the end of the project if they haven't given us permission to charge their card upon completion during the deposit payment. So to dive in to a little bit of the details of how this all works, first, of course, this all depends on if we require a deposit from any particular client. So what the client sees at the bottom of their quote depends on a few fields in Infusionsoft. So we've got the deposit percentage contact field, and this is just the standard percentage that any particular contact we would require of any particular contact. And then also for each opportunity, there is, of course, the deposit needed field and the deposit received field. So if the deposit is not needed and that is set to no, or there's a particular client that we don't require deposits for and this is set to 0, you'll notice right now this quote says proceed, but when I change these to the deposit needed to no, or the deposit's already been received for whatever reason, which probably wouldn't happen, and I refresh this, you see the button just says accept, and the system proceeds as it's set up now, meaning when they sign the quote and hit accept, it takes them to their signed quote and they get an order confirmation. Now, if we require a deposit, we'll set this back to 50. And set this to yes. Go back to our quote. And you see that it's asking them to proceed to payment. So note that this is for $4, so the deposit should be for $2. So Derek Zoolander is ready to start his project. Zoolander. Proceeds to payment. You'll see now we have our credit card order form and the option to pay later if they want to pay by check or they need a little more time to get the credit card info. So they can select credit card or check and they can enter a date on which they plan to pay. Note that the deposit payment amount is shown for $2. If it was set to 25%, it would show $1. We have the quote number, and the statement just says that the 50% deposit is due. And then a checkbox at the bottom that allows them the option to give us permission to automatically charge the card when we deliver the files. So first I'll show you the Pay Now option. So I will enter my information. I have a test card that I'm using now, so I don't have to put my real credit card info in this video. But we did test the real cards, Visa and Amex, and they worked. So I can show you guys that later too. And then the button says accept and pay because they're accepting the quote and paying the deposit. And then they're taken to this just confirmation page that payment was successful. If payment wasn't successful, they wouldn't be taken to this page. You would just say your card information was incorrect. You need to note that the amount is listed so that they have confirmation that $2 was successfully paid. And just a note that says an email has been sent to them as well. then you see I get my order confirmation. And each order confirmation is slightly different depending on the scenario. So this one, since they've already paid, it says there's also a confirmation that that payment's been received. So it says the deposit payment amount of $2 has been received. This is confirmation of that, and that we're ready to start your project. Some normal info about how long it takes us to, confirm the schedule and whatnot. So that's the Pay Now option. Oh, and then we see on our end, if I go back to the opportunity, the invoice number has been listed, 895, and that corresponds directly to the order that's been created in Infusionsoft. The deposit received, you'll note, has also been updated to yes, and the disposition date has been filled out like it was before. Now, if I go to this particular order, 895, it's pretty easy to search. If you go to order 895, and this is the order that was created with our products. And you can see that the credit card payment went through. If it was a real credit card, it would say the last 4 digits here. And you can see that because the deposit's been paid, there's an outstanding balance of $2. And then we have some custom fields here. Pay deposit later is no. Auto charge was no because I didn't select the box, and the deposit required was 50. So those are the current fields that are pushed over to the order at the moment. So now I'll show the Pay Later option. So what happens after they click Accept is the same whether or not they select credit card or check. So for this instance, I'll just select credit card, and I'll say that I'm going to pay, tomorrow. Hit Accept, and this is a slightly different thank you page. It just says order confirmed since no payment was received, and that the confirmation order has been sent to an email. So here's my confirmation email this time. It's slightly different since payment hasn't been made, and this time there's some information in the email that says, gives some info on how to pay. So we have the link to pay by credit card, or it says pay by check, and gives some information on how to do so. So the order confirmation is the same whether they select check or credit card, since the information on what to do is in the email. So I'll click the link, and it takes me directly to the deposit payment form. And you'll notice that it's the deposit amount. There's no options here. And it works the same as what I showed previously. I'll enter my information. And this time I'll select that I would like payments to be charged automatically upon completion. See that the same thank you page shows up. Deposit payment received, the amount, email sent to the person, and project number, order number, and specific payment ID. We could also use a reference code that is unique to the payment if that's better than the specific soft ID. So then now we see for this instance, since they're paying later, the order's already been confirmed, they need some sort of acknowledgement that everything's gone okay. So there's a receipt, and for them to keep in the records. So there's just this receipt email. We can tile it whatever we want, but there's some basic details about the transaction, just saying that we received payment at this particular amount for the order number and how much is left on the order. So it says total paid $2 of 4. And you'll see this receipt email is used again in final payment if that's the particular scenario. Yes, I forgot to go to our order here. So we'll go to order 897. But you'll notice that they decided to pay deposit later, so it recorded that as yes. And when I clicked auto charge yes, it hit yes. Nothing automatically is happening. It's just telling us that we have permission to charge the card. And the way that you would do that is you go into add payment, payment type, credit card charge now, and their credit card would be here stored for us to charge. And that's how you would charge the payment upon when final payment came up. Yeah. So for final payment, this is all dependent upon the stage. Oh, and also, okay, sorry, one more thing. Refresh, deposit received, yes. For final payment, it's dependent upon the stage the project it's in. So the payment URL that's saved in the order, there's a payment URL here that I forgot to mention. That is good for the deposit payment form, anytime they need to pay. And what's shown is dependent on what stage it is and what the particular fields are. So you'll notice if I go back to the deposit payment form right now, since it's already been paid, the credit card form doesn't show up. It says no payment is due at this time, and remaining balance will be due upon delivery of project files. So then when I go and say the project's done, I move to complete. One thing to note is at the bottom here, if I go to that payment URL, payment still won't be available until I set this final payment to due at a day now or before, and that's set automatically when they pay the deposit to just be one date after the order. Eventually, there can be a hook that's when the project delivered that this can be updated to the delivery date. But for now, this should work just fine. It's that one day after, and then payment will be payable made. But you'll see here when I change this, and then I'm in project complete. I go to the invoice or the payment URL, and we have our final payment form. It's a little different in that there's an order summary on the right just to remind them what they've purchased, and just to show them that a payment's already been made, showing the final balance. I'll enter my information like I did before. And then we'll see that this is the thank you page for the final payment. It just says final payment received, the amount, and confirmation has been sent to the contact's email address. And if they're ever to go back to the payment form, it won't have the credit card form, so they couldn't double pay or anything. And it'll say the order paid in full, thank you. It'll show the specifics of the payments that were made. If it was an actual credit card, it would have the last 4 digits, say Visa 3485. And they will get another payment receipt email. And there it is. Just says the same thing as the deposit one did. Confirmation we received your payment of $2. Totals paid $404. So now there's one last thing I'd like to show you guys, is that in Infusionsoft, since this order is already created and it's essentially got all the items that our normal invoice already has, there's the option to generate an invoice, and I've set up some invoices, some templates for invoices, and they look pretty similar to, oops, I don't know if you can see all that, pretty similar to what our invoices look like already. And we can set up fields so that all this information shows up correctly. It'd look more like, here, I'll pull up one I generated before. It would look more like this. Right now I had some date fields that I filled out that are tied to an order that fill out these fields, and we can have the developer push those to the order as well, so that all the fields that are necessary for an invoice are already generated. And this would save us some time in QuickBooks in having to entering all the individual line items. And I was thinking that in QuickBooks we could just add add an invoice for a particular project still manually. And instead of adding each line item, you just add one lump sum, and that would save the amount of entry that you would have to do in QuickBooks. And when a payment was made, we could create, we could set up a new payment method in QuickBooks that says like Infusionsoft credit card payment or whatnot, and log the payment just as we would a check or an ACH. And the nice thing about this invoice is that you can include a link to the payment URL, so that with their invoice, if you give this to them on delivery, they can click it and go to pay and whatnot. So that's an option I just wanted to present. It's nothing that is mandatory, but it's something that was already pretty pre-built and easy to set up as a part of what was built. So those are sorts of the basic features of what's possible with this new system. Even if a deposit's not required, that payment URL is made, and we can still use that final credit card payment form for people who don't need a deposit. So that can be used at the end of the project in any scenario. So I'm really excited about this, and I hope you guys are too, and excited to get this up and running. Thanks for watching.